Our world is soaring toward 2012. Time is speeding up. Chaos is shifting into a new level, and we feel the pull to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Timeless spiritual wisdom offers the point of stability to navigate these times and to open our greatest potential. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the fun and knowledge of visionary best-selling authors Shri and Kira as they explore these mysteries and invite your higher love to come forward. And now, here are Shri and Kira.
Namaste. I am wisdom teacher Shri Ram Ka.
And I am Kira Ra, and welcome to another episode of Higher Love. You know, we are going to dive deep today there's a reason, Shri, that the 2012 apocalypse conversation is getting expansive, and we've got a lot of facts to share with you today. Are we at the end times? Are the signs there? What is going on? Animal deaths, extreme weather climate, people just literally doing strange things. Let's talk about it. Let's dive into it. What's going on? And is this based in fact? Is this based in truth? And because Shri and I live right here in Guatemala and work with the Mayan elders and work with a lot of other beings regarding the 2012 issue, this is a powerful show.
You know, we have been witnessing alarming statistics about our world for quite a few years, actually. Yeah. And it seems that it's heating up, so to speak.
It's literally heating up. We're going to talk about that in the second half of the show because it's literally heating up.
However, the number of incidences of alarming news is piling up closer and closer together. And sometimes one little piece of information may be easy to ignore, but when we take a look at the series of things that are going on, it is a call to consciousness. You know, and for example, we began this year, 2012, over the New Year's holiday, with one of the first reports was out of Norway. Over 20 tons of dead fish washed up on the shore.
Now, you know, take a minute and consider that. 20 tons. It's almost inconceivable, Shri. You know,
it's huge.
We live on a lake. You know, we live in Lake Atitlan, and I know what I experience when I see one or two. I can't even imagine 20 tons of fish. And I love that you talked about, you know, okay, this has been heating up over the years, and right at the new year, we started with the animals, you know, the creatures, and then of course there's all the biblical prophecies about how the animals will leave, and this is where a lot of people are starting to weave in all of these prophecies, and then sure enough, here we are on New Year's weekend, and that's kind of coming forward.
That's how we kicked off 2012, and of course the coincidence of that, together with down in New Zealand, at the same time, within a day or so, there's 80 pilot whales washed up on a beach. And they had the same thing happen the year before in January.
This is really a fascinating phenomenon because what we're seeing is that the animals are talking. You know, we are talking, meaning humanity. However, we tend to talk at each other. We tend to talk and promote our own agendas. Whereas these beautiful, beautiful animals, and one of the things we're looking at in the first half of the show is, what are the animals really saying to us, and are we listening?
And there's a lot of speculation. So there are the people that have the science perspective. And I use that word deliberately because science is a discipline, science is a training, and yet it's just a perspective. If things don't fall within the range of scientific knowns, they're thrown out.
Well, you know, it's fascinating. I was revisiting the other day the whole thing around pharmaceutical studies. And one of the things around pharmaceutical studies is that the people that volunteer often volunteer in the hope of getting free assistance for a condition that they have, yet they subject themselves to being a guinea pig because you never know if you're getting a placebo or the correct drug. And the reason I bring that up, Shri, is because the whole premise of a pharmaceutical study is that you are dehumanized. You are a number. You are not a person. You do not have emotions. They don't care if you live or die. All they care about is their numbers. And this is relevant as we talk about the numbers of the animals.
Right. Huge numbers. And we don't mean to stir up alarm. What we are intending is to stir up your awareness.
Absolutely. And to look at what we can do about this. There are no victims here. Even these beloved animals. And we're going to share some things that are really going to amaze you.
Now, I'm staring at I printed out a couple of things from the net, and I want to move to Peru now. In the spring this year, over 74 dolphins washed up on shore. Now, let me read this to you because this is pretty amazing. Normally, 74 dolphins die a year statistically. I read that wrong, so I want to make sure you get this correct. 74 are stranded in the Gulf of Mexico statistically every year. But between February 2010 and April 2012, 714.
That's 7 times. If 74 annually is normal, then over 2 years that would be about 158 whales. Now we're dealing with over 700. This is the animals speaking to us. They're saying something.
And then in Peru, 877 dolphin carcasses. Now that's alarming. It's just alarming. And they're wondering, is this a virus? Is this a biotoxin? What's happening here? Well, that's Peru. That's our Gulf of Mexico. We talked about the beginning of the year here in Norway. And then let's go in the last a month or so. How about the 100,000 fish washed up on the shores of the Arkansas River?
100,000. Again, these numbers are astronomical.
And then this year, and again, it happened last year, this year, 500 red-winged blackbirds plunged from the sky.
You know, I remember, a lot of you probably remember those reports where people said they felt like they were in the Hitchcock movie Birds, because literally they were just falling out of the sky.
And nobody has an explanation that really works. There are the scientists that are looking for biotoxins. Some of the people here are saying the heat wave in the United States is creating botulism in the rivers. Here's another person who says, well, these 100,000 dead fish are downstream from a field of GMO corn that they think might have mutated into something, and that the Monsanto has their corporate headquarters, or one of their offices, in Arkansas, not very many miles away from the place where these fish die.
So I'm sure by now all of you are saying, okay, we get it.
Lots going on.
There's a lot going on. What does this mean? And are these signs of the apocalypse? Are these signs of the time? Are all the biblical prophecies that are out there about how the fish and the birds will leave the planet? What is really happening? And those are great questions, and that's why we are bringing it forward. Because the reality is that you cannot deny that the animals are speaking, that these beloved creatures love so much that they are offering themselves and saying, look, if you're not going to pay attention one way, then let's offer another. Look what humanity has done to animals over the years, and I'm not here to offer judgment, I'm just pure facts. The raise in factory farming, the extraordinary rise in doing things and creating and overbreeding and creating new strains of animals, all in the name of feeding for less money, of being able to economically create a dependency, that humanity has become dependent on this artificial life form.
Yes. And it's really when one pauses and really looks, and really look at what's happening, is we're receiving so many signals that our oceans are dying, that our rivers are dying, that our air is toxic. Another one that happened very recently were hundreds of penguins washed up in Rio de Janeiro. Hundreds
and hundreds of penguins. And what I love is, you know, down here they're trying to say, that's a natural phenomenon. Yet it's never happened before. So whether they want to say they died of natural causes or not, the reality is that the phenomenon itself, the massive death, is not a natural phenomenon.
So one of the reasons that death happens is it's a signal from the soul that it's time for a new way of being. Transition, or the death of a being, whether it's a mammal, a bird, or a human, is truly a signal that the current way cannot continue.
You know, I love, Sri, as you're sharing that, I'm immediately reminded of one of my favorite quotes from Gandhi, although I have so many it's hard to call one a favorite. But one of my favorite Gandhi quotes was, you can always determine the level of consciousness of a country by the way they treat their animals.
Absolutely.
And that is a really powerful quote. Consider that. And Gandhi, of course, at that time was speaking about a country. Let's maybe, if we broaden that quote to the entire planet, you can tell the consciousness of the planet by the way we are treating our animals. You know, and we're not here to propagate any form of conspiracy theory or to inflame you into an activistic perspective. What we are trying to do, as Sri mentioned, is invite your awareness, and in the second half of the show we're going to go deep into how this is interconnected with the planet, and how we can harness this and use this as a momentous giant leap for humanity. Or we can agree and say, okay, we're going to energize this as apocalyptic experience.
You know, what you think about it doesn't change it.
Exactly.
And so we can gossip, we can write up news reports, we can blog about it, we can get concerned. The point of the matter is that that energy that you stimulate through your awareness, how will you use it in your life? Will you expand your love?
And we're going to go deep into that in the second half of the show. What we want you to consider right now is this. Yes, just Sri and I laying out some facts for you. Yes, there are tests. A lot of you are saying, yeah, but those whales are dying because they're conducting sonar wave tests in the oceans. Yes, that's happening. That is absolutely true. These birds were probably part of some form of innocent victims, maybe from chemtrails that are being laid in the skies. Highly probable. You know, we're not here to dismiss all of that. We're not here to endorse it. We're here to say, okay, before you, as Shri's inviting you to consider the deeper aspects of this, it's important for you to recognize that as a co-creator, we do exist in a world where they're doing horrific tests that are happening all the time and are being perpetrated on animals, humans, natural life, everything. We are living in a moment where they are dumping into our skies, where chemtrails are happening, where there are chemicals being dumped. We are living at a moment where there are pulse waves and sonars. You know, Shri and I live down here in Guatemala, and the other day we were stunned to see a new cell tower at Lake Atitlan. It blew me away. We showed up at Tosa La Laguna, and I looked across. Fortunately, thank goodness, Tosa La Laguna and the few little areas right by us are in the last pristine nature reserve of the lake. Thank God we were directed to be on that side of the lake. But right across from us, a huge new cell tower just in our sight. And it was a very tangible sign of the times. Same thing as we were driving to the lake. For economic reasons, we were commenting on yet another beautiful forest had been hacked down and replanted with coffee because of the huge demand for coffee and the fact that Guatemala is not suffering a drought. We're having our own interesting climate shifts, but nothing that's causing what's happening in other areas of the world, which we're going to dive into in the second half of the show. So in this moment, as we look at, yes, we have all of these animals that are definitely saying something's going on.
Saying I can't be here anymore.
Exactly. We have these scientific challenges. We have other things that are happening. The key, as Shri mentioned earlier, is how are you going to respond to that? What are you thinking? And that's where we're going to go in the second half of our show.
We'll be right back.
Namaste, beloved one. This is Kira Ra, and I am inviting you to take a journey of the soul in the land of the heart. Imagine your life free from chaos and filled with creative clarity. Imagine waking up each day in your private lakefront casita, greeted by brilliant sun, flowers, and birds. It is here that you will effortlessly resurrect your divine blueprint in pristine energy. Yes, I am inviting you to join us for a personal resurrection vacation retreat at beautiful Lake Atitlan, Guatemala. Here, you can rejuvenate your life as you indulge in Tosa spa cuisine, private healing sessions, yoga, tai chi, meditation, and loving support. Imagine enjoying pure air, zero noise pollution, and endless stars in this ascended nirvana. The time is now to claim your true joy. Learn more by visiting shriandkira.com and just click on the Resurrection Vacation Treat page. Tosa La Laguna, healing lives, healing hearts. We welcome you home.
Welcome back. We're glad you're with us. Today we've been exploring really a very tender subject, the thousands of deaths in the animal and bird kingdom and fish that seem to be accelerating in the last couple of years, and especially this year. Just a real sign from Mother Nature that our environment is not supportive in the way it used to be.
Yes. And you know, the other thing that we're talking about is are these signs of the times? You know, we explored in the first half of the show the recognition that, okay, we get it. We get that we are doing things on the planet that have never been done before. We get that things are happening, that the animals are speaking, that we're harvesting and cutting down massive amounts of our planet, that we're in this absolute controversy as to whether or not global warming is real. And yet, you know, Shri, this is amazing, some of the things that you pulled off earlier. What's happening on the planet right now kind of brings one to the point, or begs the question of, can we stop arguing with each other and start moving forward?
Well, here, I'm going to share a little news clip from the BBC about the United States.
Oh, there you go.
And this is very recent, just came out a day ago, and we're talking about July. And here's what they say. Highways buckled in Wisconsin. Water use has been cut back in Indiana. And those who had power in the Mid-Atlantic are urged to conserve it because the heat wave is expected to worsen. Temperatures more than 100 degrees in Philadelphia, extreme heat in the Midwest, power outages surpassed a week in the Mid-Atlantic. They are finding older people dead in their homes due to the exposure. Tens of thousands without power. Well, I don't need to read this to you. I just need to, what I'm intending here is that people understand that the record temperatures that are going on have not been seen for decades. And the last time the earth was this dry, the last time the earth buckled and crops withered on the vine, the last time animals were killed because there was no feed for them.
Talk about the full cycle of overbreeding, factory farming.
Was back during the 30s, during the Dust Bowl era in the United States. And that was a terrible time of hardship in that country. And we're seeing this cycle rearing its head. Right now it might just be a memory, a sign that the cycle is coming, or it could well be that we are underway, that the wheel has turned to another cycle of dust.
And you know, Shri, as you mentioned that, what I immediately am feeling and sensing is that for a lot of people that want to, if you want to see the signs of the end times, the reality is you can certainly do that. Yet, remember that people have been seeing the signs for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
That's right.
You know, they have. It seems every generation wants to be the generation where Jesus comes back, or where the promise reserved.
Of the second coming have been going on for hundreds of years.
And people have been sure they were living in that moment. Now, certainly, we have technologically advanced ourselves to a place where we are creating some things that have never been experienced before. That is an absolute truth. And if you want to see this as the time of the apocalypse, then absolutely you will. You know, our beloved Archangel Zadkiel, who we work with quite a bit, has said very clearly and talked about this very extensively in our first book, Sacred Union, The Journey Home, and again in our second book, 2012, You Have a Choice, that everyone is going to get the experience they want. And as I think about 2012 and all of the, I'm going to use the word hoopla around 2012, the reality is that we are co-creating a lot of experiences. People who are actually accelerating toward an end time experience or accelerating toward an apocalyptic scenario really don't understand what they're doing. There's more of a fantasy around it, that they're either going to be taken away and those who are not worthy will deal with the mess they're creating, or there's this belief that they must die in martyrdom, or all of these other challenges. And so we are living in a moment where, you know, reality is food prices are going to go up, no matter what. Because of this Dust Bowl scenario, you know, I believe it was yesterday that I read that 39 more counties in the United States were declared natural disaster areas because of drought. And we have not ever seen this, as Shri mentioned, for close to 80 years. It was the 1930s. Many predictions have been made about this time, and there's a difference between prophecy and prediction, and there's a difference between how we receive that. But one of the things Shri and I, you know, many times we have invited you, go read the Lost Books of the Essene. It's free on our website, www.shriandkira.com. If you read these books carefully, they were encoded with extraordinary information about these times and how to navigate it. And in the very first book, they say that the last time our world saw what they're seeing right now was during the 1930s. And remember, these books came through us many years, not many years ago, about 4 years ago now, and every single thing that has been said in those books that they were predicting is actually coming forward.
And so let's talk about that for a moment. There is information that is revealed that when you are able to recognize something, that's called a revelation. That my wisdom, my vibrational rate, my ability to discern is at a place where I recognize. That's a revelation. When we read something with fascination and say, oh my goodness, there's a prediction that X, Y, and Z is going to happen, that's prophecy. Prophecy is always intended to manipulate the brain. It's intended to sensationalize. Now, there may be also an intention to somehow protect from a perceived disaster. But the point of the matter is, you're going to be where your heart tells you to be. You're going to do what your heart tells you to do, unless you're only listening to your brain.
And you know, I have to talk about that, tree, because as we're talking about this, you know, the apocalyptic scenarios and the fact that, yes, the animals are talking. Are we listening to these beautiful creatures? The Mother Earth is talking. Are we listening to her? The reality is that if we allow ourselves to really put our trust and our faith in the divine, no matter what you've prepared for or not, if there is a divine moment at hand for you, you're going to be exactly where you're supposed to be. It could be that fluke that you bought what you thought was the perfect land and the perfect country at the perfect moment, and you happen to be on vacation somewhere else when the moment arises. And, you know, I remember, Shri, that it was just a couple years ago that you and I literally got to live that. You know, Shri and I were not living here yet in Guatemala. We were still living in the United States. We were here on a vacation getting things together when there were some major natural disasters that forced us to be here and deal with things that, had we left on a plane just a day before, we would not have. And so the reality is that no matter what, if you allow your faith and your trust to be in the divine, you will be exactly where you are supposed to be, with the skills, the tools, and the consciousness that you are grooming yourself to carry to be of greater assistance to humanity.
And I want to elaborate on something.
Yeah, please do.
When we say keep your eyes on the divine, we are referring to the spiritual essence of what is understood as divine. That means beauty.
Yeah.
That means harmony. That means love. As we're focused on the peace, the love, the joy, and the beauty that is truly woven into the fabric of our very world, of our very existence, if you look for that, then there's a balance between heart and mind, and you will find yourself in the right place at the right time.
We love that.
If you're only working with the mind, if you're listening to dogma, if you're listening to what someone else tells you what to do, you're going to get a different experience. Might be useful, but it is not the holistic experience of your soul's authentic action. Now that's a different discernment. I invite you to consider that through the wisdom of your own heart. Each of us has a call. Each of us has a reason for being here. And sometimes we cook a long time, could be years, before we ripen into the fullness of what we've set out to do with this life.
So, you know, Shri, I want to interrupt that, because is part of the cooking the fascination with apocalyptic end times?
It could be. Part of the cooking could be the destruction on our planet. Humanity is interconnected. And while I believe that there are layers in our global population, meaning we have what we call mass consciousness or density consciousness. We have another layer that's more activistic. We have another layer that's more of a oneness-based, inclusive perspective. These layers, even though they have distinct qualities, have interconnectedness.
You know, they do. And the key is to recognize this. Is it the end times? It might be. It might not be. But the key is, do you want it to be? Because if the answer to that question, or it is the answer to that question that will determine your world experience and our collective world experience. And before we're so eager to let go of this extraordinary experience by doing whatever it is we would do to ourselves, The first step humanity must make is to listen to the animals that are sacrificing themselves by the thousands right now, by listening to Gaia, who is saying, if you do not nourish me, then I will literally starve. And our beloved Gaia is starving right now. And so it's the same with yourself. If you do not nourish yourself, you will starve, whether it is literally, emotionally, spiritually, it doesn't matter. If you are not nourished, then you are starving. And when we are starving, we do things we would not normally do because we are desperate. Looking for signs of the end times for some people is seen as relief from not being able to deal with the day-to-day.
It's basically a form of saying, rescue me, I don't want to be responsible for my planet,
Exactly.
let alone my world.
Exactly.
And when I say my world, I mean my world of influence. It's important for each of us to recognize that the greater story is meant to prompt an individual realization.
And that's the gift of this moment. There is a gift of this moment. If we can say thank you to these beloved animals, we don't have to ever feel good about what's happening, but say, I hear you. Your sacrifice is not in vain. Thank you, beloved Gaia. I'm paying attention. I understand that we need to stop doing the way we are right now. I understand that we need to be more proactive versus activistic. If we can allow ourselves to look in the mirror and be response-able for our individuals, then together we can truly harness the gift of this moment and move forward into what people talk about as that golden age. The golden age will not just appear. It will come forward because we will focus more of our attention on creating that world than we focus on creating the end of the world.
And so as we let those words echo in our heart, take a breath. And remember that you make a difference. Your energy, your choices, your actions contribute to the greater harmony. There was a phrase that came out of the, I think it was 60s, it might have been 70s. It said, think globally and act locally.
I think the late 70s.
70s? And I love that from the perspective of there is only one place you can act.
Indeed.
And that's right here, right now. And if you widen your awareness to notice the greater harmony, to notice how you're contributing to this holographic harmony, then together, person by person, one at a time, we're going to change the beauty picture into something that we're going to enjoy being part of.
And so until we have the gift of enjoying to be a part of your moments, may you bring a hand to your heart, take a deep breath, and know that all truly is well. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us today for 2012 Higher Love. Remember that you can find out more about Sri and Kira by going to SriandKira.com. That's SriandKira.com.